My goodness, do we have multiple birthdays today? It looks like we do. It seems that it's Allison's birthday and also Cosmic's birthday. How nice for you. Happy birthday to both of you. My gift to you is a juicy stream. So I'm a day behind on the gossip. I think tomorrow, if it's still a big thing, we'll talk about the Warner Brothers. More drama. Today we're focusing on Disney, what's going on at Disney, because it's very, very interesting. Alwyn, thank you so much for staying awake. It's so late for you, 2 a.m. That's really very kind of you. So we're going to go through, I'm going to talk about what's going on with Victoria Alonso first. Then I'm going to talk about the different Disney divisions, kick the tires, as I tweeted. And then I'll take any of your questions. Jerome, thank you for gifting a membership. Hey, Pokemon fan there, Pokemon only fan. Let me just say a couple of quick highs. Matthew, thank you. That's so kind of you. Little Baby Pizza, welcome back. Little Baby Pizza, that's a great name. I saw some other people who just joined or came back. Let me see if I can catch it. Remien, welcome back. Okay, I think that's good. It unfortunately doesn't go all the way back. But yeah, try to keep your comments based on what we're discussing. But at the very end of the stream, I will take your Disney questions. I'm not going to take any other questions. Please save those for tomorrow. Try to keep it on the subject matter at hand. All right, everybody, we got a lot of stuff going here. I will start out the stream by saying that, yes, the Damon Lindelof rumor is true. He's out at Star Wars as well. We're going to talk about Kathleen Kennedy. I've got visuals. It's going to be great. All right, so let's get started. So Bob Iger, when he had his first earnings call, when he talks to investors, once he came back to the company, somehow Bob Iger has returned. One of the major phrases that he said was accountability. In fact, he said it so often he should stitch it on a pillow and put it in his office, or perhaps send it to everybody else and have them put it in their offices. But I think a lot of people didn't quite believe him because there's very rarely accountability. But it seems that Bob Iger is serious because, as Heath Ledger's Joker says, here we go. Because, wow, as Graham, as a VFX worker, a lot of VFX people had a little bit of a celebration yesterday. But it's more than that. But I think that's obviously a very, very big part of it. Happy anniversary, AG68. I saw your comment as well. But again, we're trying to stay on topic. So Iger said accountability was a big deal. And I also want to point out that accountability has been an issue in many industries since the beginning of time. It's been a problem forever. And I think that's because, there wasn't social media. But now social media really, it's like you can't get away with it. People bring it up. It becomes a big talking point. No longer can businesses and the media that maybe they're friends with control the narrative. And so I think that's one of the reasons that you're seeing a little bit more accountability. So I think that's great. I think that's really, really important. G. Karasakakis says, I wonder if Victoria's infamous comments about the X-Men's name may have been a factor as Marvel tries to win back traditional fans for their major IP. We'll talk about that. But here's the thing. I'll just give you a rule. If somebody's winning, if somebody's delivering for the company, they don't get fired. Somebody had to fall for Quantumania. Someone had to pay the price. There had to be repercussions. As I just said on Sunday, Quantumania's numbers were too bad for that to go without any repercussions. But nobody would have ever guessed they would be this big. These are huge. All right, so I also think, Bob Iger is very serious because he has to really get this company back in shape. In fact, it was also recently reported that he has to clear up $5.5 billion at the company and that they're going to be firing a number of people across the board. That's very unfortunate. That's not message or direction firings like you're seeing here. That's just needs to save money firing. And you're seeing that in many, many industries. The tech sector just got hit very, very hard. And I've heard that, there are going to be people being fired across the Disney empire up and down, all different levels and every division. It's going to be a bloodbath because they need to free up that kind of cash. But that's not what this is. And I do think that the damage that Bob Chapek managed to do in such a short amount of time, thank you, Deepinder, is quite shocking. And I think we had no idea that it was quite that bad. We knew it was bad, but it's really incredible. So the headline yesterday was that Victoria Alonso leaves Marvel. I heard that she was asked to quit. It was like they didn't want to fire her, but they didn't want to keep her. So the way it works is that she gets to save face by saying, I'm leaving. But, who leaves a company that's still arguably at the top of its game, which she helped build? She's been there since the first Avengers movie. I will say the other thing that makes this quite shocking is that she's basically Kevin Feige's number 2, or was his number 2. Firing Victoria Alonso is shocking for many, many reasons. But one of them is that it's as close as you can get to firing Kevin Feige without actually firing Kevin Feige. Like, it's so close to him, I'm sure he's nervous. That's very scary, to fire someone that you would think would have his protection. So that's right there. Like, yikes. Hey, James. That's like, oh my goodness. So took her out. Then the other issue is that you would think, even right now, that someone who is not only a woman, but a member of the LGBT community and a person of color would be very difficult to fire. But, and I feel bad. A lot of the people I'm going to say are potentially on the chopping block here are women. And as another woman, that makes me feel bad. I want to see women succeeding. But it's unfortunate. She's Latino, Glalie Master. Also, you'll note that the other person that Bob Iger has fired so far is Kareem Daniel, the only black executive in all of Hollywood at a major studio. And Bob Iger fired him. But you know what? Nobody's saying anything about this. That is not a narrative that is taken off, even with the part of Twitter and social media that you think that would take off. So I think the issue here is that people feel Disney's in that bad shape, that they're like, yeah, you just got to get rid of the people who are causing issues, no matter who they might be. And I think you might see a change in Hollywood where, again, there's more accountability across the board. But at the same time, I do want to point out how wonderful it was to see Elizabeth Banks and Michael B. Jordan back to back directing really successful movies at the box office. So this isn't like, it's growing pains. It's another shift in the industry. But it is surprising. It is surprising. And I think the theme here is not only accountability, but that nobody is safe. For any reason. Be it what their track record is, what division they're in charge of, or who they are. You have to deliver. And if you're not delivering, you're going to have to go. Now, Victoria Alonso was in charge of 2 things. That's right, Matt. That's a good point as well. Matt said that Victoria Alonso's firing was effective immediately. No transition period. She left on Friday. She left on a Friday, and it wasn't reported until Monday. That's pretty amazing. She didn't get to train anybody. She didn't get to train a new hire. She was just out the door. And that is very aggressive. That's very aggressive. We really are playing a Game of Thrones in Hollywood these days. So Victoria Alonso was officially in charge of visual effects, post-production at Disney. So we know what's going on there. We'll talk about that. And then also she was in charge, she had taken it upon herself to really be a champion of diversity within the MCU. And I think that's very important. I want to start with the diversity conversation. And that's why I felt a little bit bad yesterday, because I knew that she was going to get really raked across the coals. And I think, what goes around comes around, man. Treat others how you would want to be treated. So I think that we need to be still professional in our discussion. I know that she was pretty mean to people apparently in the VFX community, so that's pretty bad. But I think that she meant well, but she just didn't do a good job with it. And I think that, diversity is important. I want to see Marvel continue to champion diversity. I want to see all of Disney continue to champion diversity. But the people they have in charge of it right now are not doing a good job with it. You want people to be excited about these characters. Like, look what Filoni and Favreau have done at Star Wars. You've got Pedro Pascal as the Mandalorian. You've got Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. People love that. That's successful diversity. And you want to see that. I mean, sure, one guy's wearing a helmet all the time and the other woman is, painted orange, but still, I think it's, a step in the right direction and certainly better accepted than some of the other things that have been going on. She-Hulk should not have been as poorly received as it was. Ms. Marvel should not have been poorly received as it was. So this is a problem. And I think that they clearly need other people to be in charge of these efforts. G for S says, hey, Grace, I don't understand how and why Disney would turn their backs on Kevin when he's done so much for Disney for years. I think Quantumania is that bad. We'll bring up Marvel's box office in a minute. And Jason says, it is exactly her focus on all of these stories, things rather than telling great stories that got her fired. Hey, Ricky, that's an interesting point. I think that you want the prime... I think it's complicated. Obviously the most important goal should be to tell great stories, but I don't agree. As Hildry just pointed out, Diego Luna on Andor, although Andor is such a flop, that's hard to say that's necessarily a big win. Great show 50% of the time, but really not done well. And that's true, Marduk. The Last of Us has been wonderful for diversity in many different regards in terms of LGBT and ethnicity, and that's over at HBO. And that's because, it was a great story first, and I think that's very important. Jason says, when you put identity politics and activism ahead of great work, then you got to go. It's no coincidence that the moment Kevin Feige's plate gets full and he has to rely on her, that we get things like She-Hulk. Well, we never got X people. That was just something that she, comment that she made. But yeah, I didn't love that Kamala Khan was made a mutant. I don't think that works. So, Glalie Master, Moon Knight was a Jewish character, as you might recall, in his backstory, even though he's now played by a Jewish actor. But the character did remain Jewish. So I think diversity is important, but Chris, the diversity in The Last of Us might have had some problems, but it didn't affect viewership. The show continued to grow in viewership, and it's still a big, strong hit for HBO. So I think that's important. I feel diversity is important, but they just have the wrong folks handling it at Disney. So that's one of the reasons that she's out there. Juan says, why are they putting all the blame on scripts on her? They're not putting all the blame on scripts on her, but she has become a leader there. She had become a leadership voice, and so they took that out. They felt that she was not leading them in a good direction. She also, of course, was in charge of visual effects, and we've seen multiple articles talking about how bad the visual effects situation is over at Marvel, with it becoming so bad that VFX houses were going off the record and going primarily to, I think, to New York Magazine, Vulture, and article after article about how they were being mistreated. And Victoria Alonso, it turns out, was really the person who was the face of that. And I happen to know a number of people in the VFX community, and you saw a number of them speak out yesterday. And a lot of them said, we're not sad to see her go. Let's just put it that way. We're not sad to see her go. Hey, Jason. Jason says representative is only useful when it's attached to good work. Other than that, it's a hindrance. I wouldn't say it's a hindrance. I think it further hurts the community because then they become associated with not good quality storytelling. You want underrepresented groups to thrive in great stories like Shang-Chi or The Last of Us. And then everyone gets excited about it. All right, let's see here. Otter Be Happy says Marvel quality has decreased, and Heather S says Hollywood has a writing and creative problem. I would agree. I don't know why these Rick and Morty people are still there. I don't understand it. Maybe Kevin Feige, he just renewed Michael Waldron's contract, but maybe now that Victoria Alonso was standing right next to him and just got taken out, and he's got Victoria Alonso all over him, he might be like, maybe I need to rethink some of these contract renewals. I think before he maybe felt he could do whatever he wanted, and then he could be like, but remember all the other stuff I did? And I think Bob Iger's going to be like, look at the box office! Look at the box office! And let's look at the box office. It's so bad. It's so bad. All right, so Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is at 461 worldwide. Oh, so bad. So bad. You can't get past that. It's a significant drop not only from the most recent films, aside from, pandemic releases, but remember when the movie came out, they were like, it's a franchise high for Ant-Man. Well, it's still a franchise low even for Ant-Man. And Ant-Man was the lowest franchise. So these numbers are just sobering. And I think, there's just no getting around them, no matter what you've done in the past. I mean, it's just that bad. That's how bad the Quantumania numbers are. And that's why I think Jeff Loveness has been sweating so badly. Because you're like, how is Jeff Loveness still writing Kang Dynasty? And I think you also have to agree, hey, Blood Rush, thank you. I think you also have to agree that the visual effects on Ant-Man were awful. I think you look at that movie and you go, somebody approved these shots? And so I think obviously you have to look to the person who approved them. Now, Kevin Feige apparently approved them too, but I don't think they're ready to do that just yet. But I do think that Bob Iger signaled that, again, that nobody is safe, not just with this firing, but by the fact that, he said just recently that Bob Iger said, Isaac Perlmutter wanted to fire Kevin Feige, and the only reason Kevin Feige wasn't fired was because Bob Iger decided to save him, which means Bob Iger could also decide to go the other way. Bob Iger means business. And one of the reasons that he means business, let me get rid of this picture. One of the reasons that Bob Iger means business is that he's got only a short amount of time to work his Bob Iger magic. Now, of course, some of these things were left over from his choices that he made towards the end, right? I mean, Victoria Alonso rose to power under his watch, just all fell to poop under Chapek. And I guess Iger could say, well, hey, it didn't fall to poop under me. And that, my friends, makes all the difference. And I think to a degree, he would have a point there. He was like, it was all fine. But then also you point out and you say, hey, but Bob Iger, didn't you pick Bob Chapek? He did. He handpicked him. So that's crazy. But Bob Iger's new contract only runs through the end of 2024. It expires December 31st, 2024. So he's got to work quick. But interestingly, a lot of people's contracts are up by the end of 2024, which I find very interesting. We'll see what happens at the end for this year, what happens with Feige. I think Feige has a lot of capital. He's very protected by how successful that he has done. But I think Guardians of the Galaxy, I have some concerns about how that film is going to perform. I have concerns about the Marvels. And I'm surprised that he continues to keep these Rick and Morty people on. I'm shocked that he just recently renewed Waldron's contract. That to me is just absolutely amazing. So we'll see what happens. But I think Marvel's very difficult 2023 is not over just yet. Guitar Sparta, that's a great name, says at the rate that Disney's blockbuster franchises are atrophying, do you believe that they realistically have any chance of winning back audiences? I do. You can always win people back. You can always win people back. But you just have to take the time to do it and have the quality. Everyone loves a comeback. Everyone loves a comeback tour. It's definitely doable. But I don't know if it's doable by these people. I think the Disney company and the brands can come back. And part of that might be having to get rid of them. Now, before we go over to the other individuals, we're going to look at the other divisions. Does anybody have any questions about what's going on with Marvel specifically? And I'll answer some of your questions here. Gamer on a Budget says, Quantumania played it just too safe. It was supposed to make us eager for Kang, but I think most of us are just waiting for the X-Men to finally come. I don't know. I'm pretty excited about Secret Wars and Deadpool 3. But yeah, I guess that does include the X-Men. Hey, Nabby. Welcome back. Brett Crandall, where did that go? Says, I think this busts the myth that special interest groups are being treated special and overly protected by optics. I do feel, Brett, but I think that should be the case for everybody. I'm a big believer in a meritocracy, as many of you know. I've been in favor of a meritocracy for a very long time. And I think everyone deserves their due, of every group. And I just think everybody should have the opportunity to prove themselves. That's what diversity means to me. So I want to continue to see representation in projects. I want to continue to see representation in the people who work behind the scenes. But you just have to keep cycling through them until you get someone who can deliver. Like, we all love Ryan Coogler. I think he's brilliant. Michael B. Jordan, there's a lot of great talent there. But Chloe Zhao, you got another woman. But, she's got to go. Passive Aggressive says, speaking of diversity, very worried for the Marvels. I'm scared, and I don't think the movie's going to get a fair shake either, which scares me. Ivan Sarmiento says, to be fair, Waldron's projects have been the most successful MCU Phase 4 projects. That's a good point. That's probably what his agent's saying. He's like, but look at the numbers. Paul Brunel says, do you think that Feige could be let go too? I don't think we're there yet, but I do think that, it's a message to him, it's a warning that he's not invulnerable. Matthew says, even though the Avengers video game was a flop, they handled MODOK better than the MCU. A shame. Hassan says, Victoria and The Rock are both being used as a scapegoat. I think The Rock is being used as a scapegoat at this point. But I don't believe that Victoria Alonso is being used as a scapegoat. I will say that I believe that the MCU will be better off with her no longer with the company for multiple reasons. So I think that Marvel will be better off. I don't know how long it'll take for us to see that since they're working so far ahead. But I do feel that the company will be better off. So any other questions about this in particular? I don't know about Luis Desposito, Leroy. That's an interesting question. Alwyn says, I think that the day DC performs better than Marvel is the day they let Feige go. Wouldn't that be ironic if Gunn took out Feige? I don't think that's going to happen. And I don't think Feige's getting lazy, Sean. I think the MCU has finally gotten too big for him to control himself. I think that's the issue that he's dealing with. And maybe somebody, maybe Victoria Alonso was whispering in his ear and taking him in maybe I've long said that I feel like Kevin Feige is not trusting his gut recently. And I think you can see that a little bit in some of the recent projects. I also think he has a little bit of odd taste in people he hires, from James Gunn to Peyton Reed to the Rick and Morty writers. And I think Feige would be well served to not think of his own personal tastes, but to think of what does best for the mainstream and for 4-quadrant movies. I think, you see kind of a sameness to some of the recent hires over the past few years, and they're just not working out. I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying it, but, you have to always be able to take notes and course correct. The ability to course correct is so crucial for not only an individual, but businesses. And I think that's something that everybody should remember, even for themselves. I always think that's important. I mean, for instance, a recent course correction that I've done is done a lot of stuff with, live streams, instead of watch-alongs. And then also, understanding, DC is following DC is constant course correction. You don't ride stuff to the bitter end. You take a balanced, hard look at what's actually happening. So let me see here. Jason says, when are they able to stop saying that a film isn't getting a fair shake? There is now a long list of failures that has now given us a pattern to expect. That's a very complex question. I discussed a lot of that yesterday in Movie Math with why I thought Shazam did not do well. Buck's Basement says, the Marvel sounds like a disaster. See, I don't know if it sounds like a disaster, but it might not be a very good movie. It might be another Quantumania. I wouldn't call Quantumania a disaster either. I would just call it sad, meh. Alon says, Victoria Alonso is said to be a kingmaker and to only give work to those she likes. Well, who doesn't do that? Right? I mean, Hollywood is they say Hollywood is a business of who you know, but that's really true for every business. You hire your friends. That's why it's so important to network and to have good relationships. I don't really know. I mean, again, if Quantumania had done well, Victoria Alonso would still be working at Marvel. And then Clady says, I got it right, Clady? Your pronunciation of your name. Says, Grace, do you think that a bad foundation has been laid by Marvel for the multiverse saga? Do you think they can turn this around by the end of Phase 6? I think they should plug up the leaks, which they're doing. And I think if they can deliver an amazing Thunderbolts, Deadpool 3, and Secret Wars, which I think is very doable, and a good Fantastic Four, everyone will be back in. I think that they are definitely hitting pause. They're literally hitting pause. They hit pause on every single Disney Plus series. Marvel is, thank you, Brett. I think that Marvel is hitting pause for sure. For sure, that's what you're seeing. Just like Star Wars had to do. And Star Wars was doing okay, but boy, the Mando numbers are very sobering. I think that, we'll talk about the Mando numbers when it finally comes on to Nielsen in about a week or two, but they're bad. And the fact that it's such a hit show, and Pedro Pascal is at the apex of his career right now at The Last of Us, and the fact that The Mandalorian is just in the pits, I think they're probably like just losing their minds over it at Disney, being like, how are we going to fix this? Because it's just that shocking. All right, let me do a couple more questions, and then I got to head over to the next section. Let's see here. Nabby says, although Alonso did good in her earliest years in this business, you're only as good as your latest projects. I think, just, especially when the last one is just, again, so bad. AG68 says, I have a feeling the Marvels is going to flop. If I were Kevin Feige, I would tease Rogue for the fans. I don't want to do that to Brie Larson. I think it's going to really sit poorly with a lot of people. And I don't even think, Rogue's not even the most famous for draining Captain Marvel or Ms. Marvel of her powers. A lot of people have latched onto that because they don't like Brie Larson, but I'm not happy with that. Alon says, I'll rephrase, she had so much power she could end your career if she didn't like you, and did according to some in the VFX industry. Yeah, you don't want to be vindictive. That's never good. As they say, as I just said here, what goes around comes around, man. What goes around comes around. Gamer on a Budget says, do you think the High Evolutionary will get the same Marvel villain treatment and die for good? Well, I don't know. I don't want to ruin the movie. I haven't heard anything. I think the problem is that the character is too similar, even in the color of his costume, to Kang. And having them come back to back, I think, is not ideal. Dylan says, a lot of people have already decided that they hate the Marvels and just want to weaponize it against the representation. I agree with that, Dylan. I'm having a hard time covering the Marvels because I really want to be fair to it. I mean, I want to be fair. Here's the thing. I guess that's what I mean. Yes, Shazam 2, I feel was a solid movie. Could you not have any interest in it because you don't think there's any future for that franchise and that what it represents? That's also fair. But I don't think you need to say the movie sucks. I don't think the movie does suck. All right, Jason says, I'm tough on this because I love the IP and the business and I want some. Yeah, I hear that. I'm a little bit tougher on DC because I know what it can be. Jamro says, Feige could have recommended her firing to not look like the bad guy. Ooh, I don't know. He's pretty cutthroat. But I don't know. I think it makes him look pretty bad. So I would be surprised if he did that. Unless they were like, I don't think Feige did that. He's very good friends with Victoria Alonso. They've worked together for almost 20 years. I don't think he did that. I mean, Kevin Feige has a very hard time firing people. Hey, 311, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining Movie Club. And Leroy says, Victoria Alonso, one is the main reason that Bob Chapek went to Florida about the bill. Well, I think that Bob Chapek was right to come out against that bill, though. So I think she was right to encourage him to do that, quite frankly. All right, let's move on to the next. So we're going to kick the tires of the other divisions, all right? And I've got pictures, so you know where we are. But I will say up front, these are all of Disney's divisions, right? In the order that they were joined to the company. And I think if you look at this is a great lineup, by the way. An amazing lineup. And I'm doing a video on box office for later this week, maybe even later today. Let's see how quickly I can get it done. But in 2019, there were $9 billion films, and 8 of them were Disney or Disney adjacent, because of course it was one of the Spider-Man movies over at Sony. So that's incredible. Oh, Josh loves movies. I think that's not really its own division anymore. I think they're kind of phasing that out, so I didn't include it. And it doesn't really have a person who heads it up. But that's true. I could have technically put Disney Fox there, but I am talking about divisions today and who could potentially be, let's say, replaced. We'll do a James Gunn. Who might not continue with us on this journey? Who might we go in a different direction from instead of outright firing? Just like Victoria Alonso wasn't fired. She decided to leave, even though, she wasn't really given much choice. But I will say that these divisions, for the most part right now, do seem very directionless and don't have actual leadership. It's really like a kumbaya circle, and they can do whatever they feel like doing. But how's that working for Warner Brothers, by the way? Disney has always succeeded because it was a machine. It has been an absolute machine, a very successful machine. And I think Bob Iger wants to get back to that, the Disney machine. All right, so let's start out with the one everybody wants to start out with, Star Wars. And I was looking for a recent picture of Kathleen Kennedy, and I couldn't find anything of her without the Mandalorian included. Either she was standing in front of the Mandalorian logo, or she had a t-shirt on it. Last year at Star Wars Celebration, that's where I was looking for the photo from, and she was walking around in a Mando t-shirt. And you're like, Kathleen Kennedy, you did not do the Mandalorian. So I think that it takes real chutzpah to walk around acting like that's your win, right? I mean, the most I think she did was not get in that show's way. And then also, now it's a flop too, sadly. All right, so I also think, though, that Obi-Wan did not do very well because it wasn't good. And that's a shame. How do you mess up the Obi-Wan show? I mean, that should have been like shooting fish in a barrel. or, pew, 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 pewing fish in a barrel. And then Andor, an incredible show 50% of the time, was a ratings disaster. And I don't think it got enough awards to really warrant. If it had gotten more awards, you'd be like, okay, well, it's not for everyone. But it only got a couple of awards, and so I think that's not great. And then the movies. This movie situation is bad. I think this is going to be what does her in. Because every single movie she's tried to set up since the pause that Bob Iger put her on, by the way, he's like, I quit the company and came back and you still don't have a movie going? And she's like, yeah, that's what's happening. Because she got, Patty Jenkins fell through, Taika Waititi, it looks like, is falling through, Kevin Feige has fallen through, and now the latest, and I've confirmed this through my own sources, Damon Lindelof walked away. Damon Lindelof, what's Damon Lindelof even doing, man? Benioff and Weiss, although Benioff and Weiss, I think that was probably mutual. Same as Rian Johnson, right? They're like, let's just nobody embarrass each other and let's just pretend let's just pretend it's going to happen, but it's never going to happen. So it's really bad that all of these Star Wars movies are not working. It's a disaster. Like, what the heck is she going to introduce at Star Wars Celebration? The Daniels are just doing an episode of the new Star Wars show, which I don't even know if anyone's going to watch that thing, with the way the Mando's going. So I feel like, let's see what her announcements are at Star Wars Celebration in April, but it's looking really bad. She has had 2 contract renewals. The latest was under Chapek. Her contract ends in 2024. Again, the same year that Bob Iger's does. And I would think, never say never, because she's survived twice. I think largely, as I've told you before, because nobody else wants this job, because the Star Wars fandom is extremely aggressive. But I think Kevin Feige, not Kevin Feige, I think Dave Filoni or John Favreau could be the Kevin Feige of Star Wars. They have literally shown the way, a way out of this mess. And so I don't know if Filoni wants Kathleen Kennedy's job, to be honest with you, because he's a creative. And as we're seeing with James Gunn, creatives don't make great heads of divisions because they want to be creating. They want to go and create. And so I think Filoni's not going to sit in an office all day and, hey, JF, and decide how he wants to do things. He's going to be wanting to go out there in the trenches and creating shows. So they got to find some other executive. I mean, maybe, and I think the same for Jon Favreau, by the way. So I don't think they're the answer, quite frankly. I think they got to go back to getting executives. So Kathleen Kennedy, in some ways, was a good choice, and I can understand why they chose her, because she has a career out of producing Spielberg and George Lucas. But clearly, Spielberg and George Lucas were very important parts of that equation. And Kathleen Kennedy, who's never worked on her own, she then went to working with her husband, Frank Marshall, who she actually met, who was producing Steven Spielberg's films when Kathleen Kennedy was his assistant, Steven Spielberg's assistant. That's the Kathleen Kennedy backstory. And so she's never really struck out on her own, and it hasn't gone very well. So we'll see. We'll see if I think that it's time for somebody else. And if Bob Iger was willing to get rid of Victoria Alonso, maybe it's finally time. And he can do it on his way out. He can be like, peace out, see ya, bye everybody. So, let's see what happens. But her contract ends in 2024. And I think Damon Lindelof is a really bad loss. Just to lose somebody else again is very bad. All right, next, we're going to get to Pixar, Mika, but I have them in order already. All right? And again, just think about what Disney could be. $9 billion pictures in 2019. Oh, eight of the 9. $8 billion pictures in 2019. 7 outright from the company. When I saw that list, I was like, no wonder Bob Iger greenlit Zootopia 2, Toy Story 5, and Frozen 3. Because that's what was doing so well in 2019. Sequel after sequel after sequel. And so I think Bob Iger's like, let's get back to what we know works. Let's re-steady the ship. All right, next up, let's look at Disney Pictures. Disney Pictures, that's Sean Bailey. Sean Bailey runs Disney's live-action division. And he's had tremendous success with a lot of these live-action adaptations of the animated movies. They've done quite well up until now. And I think that's where he potentially has run into trouble. And I think he has a really bad lineup coming his way, which is a little bit scary. Little Mermaid, I'm a little nervous about The Little Mermaid. And this is through 2024, by the way. Little Mermaid, I'm starting to get really worried about that movie because the last trailer did not connect. Haunted Mansion looks great to me, but I don't know if it's going to make a lot of money. It looks like a really good movie to me, but let's see. I think Snow White with Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, I think that could be really bad. I'm really nervous about it at this point. Rachel Zegler has zero for 2 when it comes to big movies. West Side Story was a flop. Shazam was a flop. And Gal Gadot, not doing well these days. That movie's, I'm nervous about it. I'm very nervous about Snow White. It better look amazing. And then I'm very excited about the Mufasa Lion King movie from Barry Jenkins, as one of you pointed out. So let's see how that does. I hope that does well. But I think Sean Bailey's sitting pretty good. But I think he might be in for a little bit of a rough patch. All right, next up, Jennifer Lee. I think Jennifer Lee's going to go. Now, she will not leave the studio. No way will she leave the studio. Because Jennifer Lee is the mind, of course, behind Frozen. And they're making Frozen 3. And Frozen has been such a boon for the company. It's just so incredibly successful, not only as a film, but in so many other ways with merchandise, the parks. It's huge. And of course, that comes from, she lucked into it. They redid that movie at the very last minute. And people don't think Frozen 2, I liked it better. But people don't like Frozen 2 as much as Frozen 1. So I hope they do a good job with Frozen 3. So Jennifer Lee won't leave the studio, but I think there's an extremely strong chance she will step down from being the head of Disney Animation. Remember, she and Pete Docter were raised up to the head of their separate divisions when John Lasseter had to leave because he was, it was framed as he was hugging people, but he was outright sexually harassing people. So he definitely had to go. But Jennifer Lee, I think, is just not the right person for the job. I think that Encanto was a mega hit, obviously. But then, Raya didn't really connect, even though I loved the movie. Strange World is probably one of the most embarrassing flops ever seen. I mean, what a year last year. Strange World and Lightyear. We'll get to Pixar in a moment. And then I'm a little nervous about Wish, to be honest with you. I heard it looks good, but I just don't know if it's a strong enough play. Some people might like it. I hope it's good. It's supposed to be a traditional Disney fairy tale, and people love that. I just hope it does well. We'll know very soon. It comes out this Thanksgiving, and we haven't seen anything for it, which is pretty amazing. I mean, you've got, I'm blanking on the name. She did the Angela Bassett is the Thing. Ariana DeBose. Thank you. Ariana DeBose is having a little bit of a tough time too. So maybe that's one of the reasons they've held back on promoting it, because she's, of course, the face of that. Well, the voice of it. And she will be the face promoting it. She does the voice of and the singing for that new Disney princess. So we'll see. But I've also heard that Jennifer Lee doesn't have any backing within Disney Animation itself. I think a number of people in Disney Animation feel she should go. Well, not go, but that she's not a good choice to head up the company. So I think it's a very strong chance. I think she and Kathleen Kennedy are the most likely to also, be transitioned, for us to go in a different direction. And then finally, Pete Docter, he took over also for John Lasseter. And I don't think he's very good at what he does either. I think, these, by the way, I'd like to point out, these are two creatives running their divisions. That's also extremely important. Jennifer Lee is a creative. Pete Docter is a creative. Don't underestimate the importance of a producer. A producer is a skill set. Kevin Feige is just a producer. He doesn't do anything else. And I think that these studios need to look for producers to run these divisions. That's what you need. Pete Docter took over Pixar. I think he's out of his depth. I think he knows that he's out of his depth. I think Turning Red I liked it, but it wasn't a 4-quadrant film. Lightyear. Again, I liked Lightyear, but it wasn't what anybody wanted in a Buzz Lightyear film, and I think that's important. We'll see how Elemental and Elio do. I think Elemental could maybe do okay, but I don't have high hopes for Elio, quite frankly. Elio reminds me a little bit of Strange World. And I feel that both those films, at least so far, Elemental, I think a lot of us look at Elemental and go, that's a Disney Plus movie. So I think that's unfortunate. So that's my thoughts on the Disney executives. Just to reiterate, I think Kathleen Kennedy, you in danger, girl. I think that Sean Bailey, pretty safe. I think Jennifer Lee, you also in danger, girl. And then Pete Docter, probably also, I'd probably change him out too. All right, so let me do a poll. You guys love the polls. I'll say, who do you think is the most important to get rid of? Let's do a James Gunn. Who do you think is the most important person no, division head to move away from. That's what we'll do. All right, so I mean, obviously Kathleen Kennedy's going to win this poll, but we'll see by how much. Sean Bailey, Jennifer Lee, and then Pete Docter. We'll do Jennifer Lee and then Pete Docter together. And then we'll do multiples. You can vote for multiple. Okay. My vote is unfortunately for Jennifer Lee and Kathleen. Everybody but Sean Bailey. I get rid of Pete Docter too, I'm afraid. All right, so while that vote is going, let's do the Q&A section. Bartleby, hey Bartleby, what about the optics of all the female division heads getting axed? I'm not going to lie, Bartleby. I cannot tell a lie. Well, that's not Bartleby, but that's a great name. For those of you who don't know Bartleby is one of the most generous members of the BTT community. It looks bad, Bartleby. It looks real bad. But it doesn't look as bad as these movies bombing. I think that they will, I think that they're going to do it. And I got to tell you, I don't think anybody would complain about either of those people going out, to be honest with you. I don't see a complaint. Oh, Brody, I'm sorry you got COVID. Danielle said, oh, thank you, Danielle. But how many members got the Ghost reference? Oh, I hope they did. When I said you in danger, girl, that's Whoopi Goldberg from Ghost. I sat next to Whoopi Goldberg at the Ted Lasso event. Oh, she was so nice. I told her what a big fan I was. I couldn't help myself. I try to play cool around celebrities, but when Whoopi Goldberg sits down next to you, you got to say something. Let's see here. Jacob says, I think Jennifer Lee would be great continuing if she was partnered with a great producer. Well, Jacob, I don't think they should have Jennifer Lee leave the company, but I don't think she should be the head of the animation division. She's clearly not a producer. Raul says, why is King Triton fully clothed in the animated movie he was shirtless? Asking the important questions, Raul. They're like, yeah, let's ask Sean Bailey about that, man. I think that the issue is that Javier Bardem doesn't want to be shirtless through the movie. And he's a real person and not animated. I think it's fine. That's very funny. I think it ended up being fine for Aladdin. He wasn't shirtless either in live action. Graham says, we demand beefcake. Oh, we're getting off topic here, but that's fine. This is your time. You can talk about anything that you want. If you want to talk about the lack of shirtless Triton, we'll talk about the lack of shirtless Triton. AG68 says, if I were Pixar, I would do classic sequels. Up 2, Ratatouille 2, Incredibles 3. Yeah, where's Incredibles 3, man? I mean, Incredibles 2 did amazing, and also Pixar sequels are great. I would love that. They're doing Toy Story 5. I think that's a mistake. Thomas says, I think Pixar was hurt quite badly by being sent to Disney Plus exclusively too many times in a row. Also, it's important to mention Inside Out too. Oh yes, thank you, Thomas. I hated the first Inside Out, so I guess I just, I blocked that out of my mind. I tried to rewatch it. I was like, maybe time will make a difference. Didn't matter. Couldn't handle. It was still bad. But yeah, it did do very well. So I'm sure other people will be excited about it. Oh, Chloe Clark has a great question. What do producers do? A producer is somebody, if you want to know what a producer does, watch The Offer on Paramount Plus, which is about the producer of The Godfather. The producer is someone who oversees everything and is like the eye in the sky, who is like, make sure everything runs smoothly and sees the big picture. Everybody else is focused on just their little corner, but because this is it's like the team, not even the coach, like the team owner. And it's very important. They make sure that everybody's happy, everything's working well. And they do, I think what the producer does is they look out for the property. They have that in mind. They're looking out for the property. The director's looking out for their own passion and their own vision. The actors are looking out for their own performances. Everybody's looking out for themselves. But the producer is supposed to look out for the project. Because that's what, they live or die by that. Whereas everybody else lives on to fight another day. You know, who gets the Oscar when something wins Best Picture? The producers. It's a great job. All right, let's see here. Pacific Coast Highness. That's a great name, too. Love you, Grace. What would you like to cover, but interest is too low? Well, we can't. This is a Disney stream today, I'm afraid. JDS says, no question, but woo, sounds like Disney is truly in for a ride the next couple of years. Thanks, JDS. That's very nice. I don't know. I think through Bob Iger's tenure. But I think they can turn it around. I really think Bob Iger can nip this in the bud. Let me see here. It will be okay. What's a great name for today? Says, hi, Grace. Thanks for your fair coverage. I like the fact that your coverage is not mean, but instead explains how business works. I'm glad you feel that way. I try really hard to do that. Dorothy Hussein says, how about mentoring producers? Teach those who are making mistakes to become successful. Well, that's what assistants are supposed to be, and people who are development executives. That's usually how that works. And you're supposed to kind of help yourself also as a studio executive. There are paths forward to be, like Kevin Feige started out as Galen Hurd's assistant. So, and Richard Donner's assistant. So that's how you start out being a producer. Vanderson Valley, the problem with Incredibles 3 is Brad Bird. They got to get Brad Bird to agree to do it. Capes and Tight says, do you think Marvel and Star Wars current staggering is good or will be good for the industry at large? I think anything that emphasizes the importance of quality over quantity is great for everyone. Lexi says, Zootopia 2 cannot come any faster. I'm scared, though, because Rich Moore left Disney. Rich Moore was the driving force behind Zootopia, and he's not there anymore. Thank you, Andrew Dollhouse. That's very kind of you. Poke, I did not see the DreamWorks Ariel knockoff. I didn't watch that trailer. I thought talk about not liking animation. I thought that looked so bad. I was like, I don't even want to look at that. Let's see here. Present Progressive says, wouldn't it be better if someone else became interim Disney CEO and tried to fix the company other than Bob Iger? No. How dare you speak that way of Daddy Iger? Look, I don't think Bob Iger's totally off the hook, but I think there's a lot of faith in him. I think he's a big name. And I mean, who else are they going to get? They're going to have to get somebody else to take over for him in 2025. And so that'll be fine. But I think that it's like a little bit like how James Gunn is coming in there. That's interesting. James Gunn has a lot of street cred with a lot of DC fans to a degree. So they've used him to kill the Snyderverse to a degree. Stupid soft reboot. He didn't do it. He didn't do it all the way. It's like when you don't check to make sure a horror movie villain is dead. They pop right back up. He let it live. He let it live. All right, so anyway, that's kind of like what Bob Iger's doing for Disney. They brought somebody in who's beloved by the Disney fandom, and they're having him go pew, 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 and take out everybody. Like, look what he's getting away with. I don't know if somebody else could have fired Victoria Alonso, to be honest with you. Saad Al-Thani says, I think Disney Animation and Pixar need to start looking for the charm that made the movies we love today so special. I feel like right now no one's trusting their gut and looks at stats. I do agree with that. I feel a lot of Disney product now feels like it came from committee, or like it just doesn't seem good. That's my note. It's not good. What do you think of this latest? I don't think it's good. You guys have handed in poor work. Jay says, have you or will you be seeing Air? I'm glad you enjoy the live streams. I really love them too. I've really come to enjoy them. This time with you is special to me. I really love it. I have not seen Air yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to be reviewing Air in advance. Let's see here. Not that I don't think the film looks great. I just have a lot of other stuff on my plate. It looks very good to me. Allison said, just wanted to say hi. Happy birthday, Allison. I had a wonderful time watching The Goonies with BTT Movie Club. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm not sure what we're going to watch next. I know we're going to watch the original Little Mermaid in May. I have to think about what we're going to watch in April. Oh, Twice as Bright. I'd love a Megamind too, but I don't think there's any money in that. See, that's the producer in me speaking. Even though I, as a fan, would love a Megamind too, I feel from a producing standpoint, there's just no money there. One of my favorite quotes from Inside Llewyn Davis. Hey, Way Harris. JJ Wee says, Kathleen Kennedy's incompetence has become legendary. On that note, let's close the poll. It's pretty shocking. Hold on, I'll go back to those other questions in a moment. But as you can see, 67% say Kathleen Kennedy should be the next to move away. Then multiples. And look at Sean Bailey. He's sitting pretty there, and there's just 2%. He's like, whew. Whew, I'm not one of those multiples, I think. Thank goodness. That's a good poll. I like that. All right, let's see here. Buck's Basement says, why is Disney sleeping on Kingdom Hearts? So I think that's a tough IP. I think that's a little bit like Secret Wars, but in animation, and I think it's just hard to do. Let's see how Secret Wars does. It would be like Secret Wars for Disney animation. But then they have to bring in characters that aren't Disney, and I think they feel that would confuse non-gamers, quite frankly. Caesar says, would you agree that Jon Favreau is a big help for the MCU, and since he has moved to Star Wars, the MCU isn't the same? I totally agree, Caesar. You remember a video I made a couple of months ago where I said the way to fix Marvel was to bring back Jon Favreau. I think Jon Favreau is really important. I think he does a lot. Miguel says, hey, Grace, I finally downloaded a VPN just so I could become a member. Huzzah! Been following you since A Star is Born. Lots of love from Puerto Rico. Lots of love to you as well. I'm surprised you can't become a member from Puerto Rico, but I'm glad you found a workaround. AG68 says, a Disney Princess multiverse movie. I think there's money there. At least a Disney Plus series? There's something there for sure. Glalie Master also agrees. That would be a great idea. That's how to do it. Disney Plus series, limited series and animation, the internet would go nuts. Way Harris says, what's going on with Warner Brothers and The Rock? We'll talk about that tomorrow. I got to save something for tomorrow's live stream. Brother Quantum, what a great name. Says, is DC's problem more with producers or directors? I think it's leadership. And also giving too much leadership to directors. I mean, who cares what talent wants? It amazes me that they sit down and they say, well, what do you like to do? Instead of saying, it's my toy, it's my ball. If you don't play with it the way I want you to, I'm going to take my ball and give it to someone else. Mish says, seal the leaks. I love being surprised and it adds to the experience of going to the theater. Appreciate Grace and BTT. Thank you. Any Marvel tea? You just said to close the leaks and now you want Marvel tea? I don't have anything just right now. I've spilled a lot of tea recently. Leroy says, you think Jenna Ortega can end up like Katherine Heigl with how honest she is? Not yet. No, I don't think so. Katherine Heigl hit different. Katherine Heigl I think Katherine Heigl was dismissive, whereas I think Jenna Ortega is talking about some things she feels were not well done. Writer Boy says, what are your thoughts on Mason Gooding portraying the Human Torch? Well, it went so poorly for Michael B. Jordan. I don't know if I want to do that to Mason Gooding. And I'm a big Mason Gooding fan, by the way. I love Mason Gooding. So I don't want that. Kevin Cisneros says, I think Marvel needs to refocus on better end credits and fan service that adds to the plot. Well, they can't keep having this thing where you can only get excited about a movie because of the end credit scenes. I'm glad you made it, Jacob Herrera. Vanderson Valley says, what does this mean for the Disney theme parks? The quality has certainly dropped. Well, I'm not sure. They're making the most money in the theme park, so I don't think they're that nervous, although they are trying to dial back the upcharges because, the microtransactions within the theme parks, because I think Bob Iger does realize that that's a problem, and it's going to eventually, blow up in their faces. Oh, Aaliyah, I didn't see your comment. I'll go back and look at it. Johnny says, perfect time for Image Comics to make movies. Yeah, look at the success of The Boys. I think there's definitely something there. Aaliyah, how did I miss your comment? Oh, Leah, you're way back here. I hope I can find your comment. My God, Aaliyah. I can't find it. You're going to have to say it again. I'll keep an eye for it, though. Let me go back to where I was. I'll watch. You just saw the trailer for Mrs. Maisel 5. I just watched the first 4 episodes. I got screeners. They're a delight, although she's still kind of an annoying character. But I don't care. I love that show. I know Drew says, why won't they ever go back to the Russos? Never say never. But I think for some degree, Kevin Feige was like, who's in charge here? Who's the the big cheese over here at Marvel? And I think the Russos were maybe getting a little bit too much credit. But maybe now I'd call them up again. CT says, who are your top picks to be the new execs at Lucasfilm and Pixar? That's hard because you don't know a lot of the execs behind the scenes. They're still not as well known. So I'm going to have to really think about that. Talon says, Grace, I would 100% see what you see for Little Mermaid's chances. Under $700 million at most. That would be sad. Let's see here. Pumpkin DeShazer says, thank you for your coverage. It makes me sad that this is happening to Disney. It fuels the hate from those who... Yes, I agree. It is sad. It's tough to watch. And that's why it's even more horrible that these people who are in charge let this happen. You know? So, I almost made a political joke, but I don't want to go there. Jay says, get rid of them all, including Iger. There is nothing timeless about anything being released by Disney since Iger took over. Oh, you think? I don't know if I agree about that. He just mines the vault and buys other IPs. I wouldn't totally agree with that, Jay. I can see where you're coming from, but I do think that Iger added real value and totally changed Hollywood forever. So I wouldn't classify his run like that. But I can see why you would be upset, particularly with where we are now. Jake says, hey, Grace, really enjoy your content. What do you think about Dominique McElligott, Queen Maeve? Who's Queen? Oh, Queen Maeve as Sue Storm. Oh, that's an interesting choice, actually. She kind of looks like the comic book character, come to think of it. Oh, I'd be into that. She did a really great job with the action sequences. Hey, Emmett Wright. Okay, Aaliyah, did you write your question? Let me see if I can find it. Oh, hey, Asami. I'm having a great day. How do you upgrade your membership? The way that you do that is, I think, either if you can't upgrade it, you, don't worry, cancel your membership and then rejoin as the higher tier. That's what some people have had to do to fix it. Eric J. says, could Kathleen Kennedy's final fate be decided on how Indiana Jones performs at the box office? It probably was her idea to shoehorn Phoebe Waller-Bridge in there. And by the way, I love Phoebe Waller-Bridge, but she has been done so dirty by Hollywood that she has never been able to deliver anything as good as what made her famous, and that's Fleabag. But I'm kind of nervous about Indiana Jones, and I bet you anything that stinks in that movie came from Kathleen Kennedy. Jacob Gardner says, do you think Star Wars suffers from the timeline and deep lore? I love Mando, but the timeline confuses me at times. I wish they'd stick to one point in the timeline. You know, that's funny that you say that, Jacob, because it took me a while to understand it. And it's a very Filoni thing to do. But then I got into the Filoni-verse, and now I love it. But it is a small audience. I will say that. It's a small audience. Vincent says, which Disney Plus series are you the most looking forward to in Marvel in Phase 5? Oh, that's easy. Loki Season 2. But also Secret Invasion. Let's see here. Juan says, Avengers-type movies for live Disney princesses. I don't like the casting on most live Disney princesses. They're fine, but they're a little bland. And I think, by the way, intentionally so, which is unfortunate. Trace says, Grace, would you ever become a producer? That's funny. That's funny. It's very flattering of you to ask that. Thank you for asking. You never know what the future might hold, but it's a long career path. Gamer on a Budget says, maybe a Star Wars series about Knights of the Old Republic. 1 and 2 could bring the franchise back on its tracks. I don't know. That seems like a deep dive. The Acolyte is kind of like that, right? Where did Aaliyah's comment go? With the Acolyte lawsuit, new movie losing screenwriters, and it appears Mando underperforming. Kathleen Kennedy needs to go, even with Celebration in a few weeks. I'm agreeing with you, Aaliyah. I'm amazed she stayed there as long as she has. Again, I think because they can't find anybody who wants it, and she's gotten out of Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni's way. But the fact that she can't get a single movie on board is pretty bad. Louis Barry says, hope to get Moff next Mando episode, and Christopher Lloyd as Hondo. That's right, Moff Gideon. I hope he shows up tomorrow. I'm getting up early so I can cover it at a timely basis. Devin says, I think a live-action Disney Princess multiverse film would be epic. That would be cool. But I don't know about a movie. I think a Disney Plus animated series is the way to go. Devin Henderson says, I think the lack of animated musicals is really hurting them. From a business perspective, it seems like a slam dunk. Yeah, but you got to write the good songs. Yeah, Joey, I did see that. Mina Masood says they're probably not going to make Aladdin 2. And I would agree with that at this point. It's been too long, which is a shame. Jay Altman says, I saw a rumor that Secret Wars will be split into 2 movies. I have not heard that, but potentially. I don't know if I would do that, quite frankly. Just make a 3-hour amazing movie that blows everybody's mind. Captain Marvel says, what do you think about the Marvels drama? I feel bad about it. I feel bad. I don't like seeing it. I think, and I think, again, it makes it all the more important to deliver a good movie so that does not happen. Miguel says, Grace, A Star is Born and House of Gucci suffered from the script, among other things. How confident are you on Joker 2? I think it's a swing. I think it's a big swing with making it a musical. But I'm still excited about it. But I cannot say that I'm rock solid. Casey Smith says, Grace, I just stopped in for a water break and saw you were live. You must go outside and enjoy your first true spring day. Your work can wait. I have days to plan to go out later this week. And it is a beautiful day. The spring charm is a calling. But I got videos to make, man. I got to do my job. I'm glad you made it, Tillman. Let me see here. Any other comments here? And then I'll do some shout outs, and then I got to make those videos. Emmerich Wright says, is the Margot Big Thunder movie happening? I think she's producing that, right? I don't know. It better be good. Thunder Mountain Railroad, though, is a great attraction. It's the wildest ride in the wilderness. I love that ride. I love Disney World. I'm hoping to go back soon. Let's see here. Mexican Nacho says, thoughts on the next HBO shows? Really missed the House of the Dragon and the Last of Us rituals, including your coverage. Thank you. I'm so excited about Succession. I can't tell you how excited I am about Succession. That's more of a White Lotus-y show, though. Yeah, I really love doing the breakdowns. I hope we get some cool Marvel shows soon so we can dive back into it, because so far, Mando, while I'm enjoying it, just ain't it. But yeah, and it's going to be so long before we get more House of the Dragon and The Last of Us. It's so sad. Very sad. Way Harris says, I'm missing the status of comic book movies between 2018 and 2014. We talk about new phases all the time. The only phase I want is quality and excitement again. I would agree with that. Mr. Andrew says, do you think all the changes in leadership will affect the current release dates that we have? Potentially, but you know what? Take as long as you want. I think we're all tired of sitting through crap. My pleasure, Leah. I'm glad I got to answer you. Xtina, always so nice to see you, says, do you know if any executives watch your videos and take your advice? I can't name names, but I do know a number of people in the industry I'm very flattered watch my videos. I don't know if all the time, but I have made some good friends over the years, or at least I've had some great conversations, and that's meant a lot to me. You know, when the people who you're covering like and respect what you're saying enough to reach out, that really means a lot. And I repay them by not talking about them. Okay. Passive Aggressive says, the Russos produced Everything Everywhere All at Once. They would have nailed Phase 4. I don't know, man. I've seen some of their other stuff. I mean, have you seen their Netflix movies? They are bad, except for Extraction. Leroy says, what's your box office prediction for Super Mario movie? Oh, I'm waiting for my video later today, Leroy. I think you're going to be very happy. AG68 says, I think Daddy Iger needs to fixed price Disney shops? What do you mean by that? Do you mean like the parks? Mum Ross says, if I join, can I go back and watch the Goonies watch along? Yes, all watch alongs stay up forever for movie club members. Just Josh, we'll talk about the Black Adam stuff tomorrow. Midnight Eye says, Iger was the one who approved all the projects that got Disney into this situation, and he is following Chapek's plan as far as I can see. You know, maybe he knew it was all going to blow up, and he said, I'm going to take a break. Hey, maybe that's why I picked Bob Chapek. Hilarious. DAN1213 says, how will Marvel know they're doing a good movie if maybe their taste is different than ours? I think that's what's so scary. One of the things that has always been the most interesting to me about Hollywood is that a lot of the people who make the movies that you watch don't actually like the stuff that they make. Very few people who make blockbusters would go to see a blockbuster on their downtime. And I think that affects the quality of the content. You know, there's sometimes a disdain for the audience in Hollywood, which is palpable. And they got to fix that because it's really starting to bite them in the butt. Has Been David says, can I ask a tech question? What software do you edit your videos on? Of course you can. I use Adobe Premiere. Adobe Premiere, and that's what it's called, right? I'm such a Luddite for someone who makes their business in this. But yes, I use Adobe. I love it. And I'll never forget, I was using, I think, Final Cut or something. And so I was talking to another woman who was producing similar content at the time when I was working. At that time, I was, you know, kind of like I was working out of an office, but I was still independent. But I was talking to another editor, and they were like, and I was like, "What are you editing with?" On like on a Microsoft computer, and I was like, "What the heck is that?" And they were like, "Adobe," and they were like, "It's so fast," and I was like, "Really?" And and then I got into Adobe, and I love it. Hey, Alejandro. CO Gaming, you can't access the merch shop? Are you sure? I'm pretty sure it's up. Let me check. It's up. Click the link in what do you call it? On my Twitter bio. That just worked for me. I have not watched Shadow and Bone. It was too long for me, Argo. I watched the first episode and I was like, it's been too long. I'm now into Mrs. Maisel. Hey, Alejandro. I love that show. Heather S. says, I hate all of this drama. Me too, Heather. I don't know. It's fun to talk about, but it is becoming exhausting, quite frankly. AG68 says, Disney Store merch prices to fix the high... the Disney Store, they need better product, quite frankly. I mean, although I do buy a lot of Disney merch, I will say. I purged a lot of it like a couple of years ago, and I was like, I can't own all this Disney stuff as an adult, and then I still go and buy it. I'm like, oh, but look at that shirt. That's pretty nice. I recently bought like a whole set. I have a shorts and shirt set for Disneyland, and I'm like, this is pretty nice. I can't wait to wear it. Well, that's right, Mish, Premiere Pro. And it's pretty affordable. If you subscribe to it, it's just $22.85 or $22 and change a month. Alejandro says, hi, Grace. Me and my boyfriend just went to Disneyland and loved Galaxy's Edge. We got a lightsaber and a droid. Oh, that sounds great. Jay King says, I live a minute away from Columbus Circle, and the 1 week I'm out of town, the Succession 4 Season 4 premiere is right there. Oh, what a bummer. And then Writer Boy says, what is an unpopular comic that you love and could become a billion-dollar film, and why? I'm not doing Hollywood's work for it. There was one that I thought was it's tough. There was one from Image Comics, which was actually written by the writer of Image Comics. I forget the name of it, and I thought that could have been like a show. But after Jupiter's Legacy, I don't know if that's possible anymore. I think comic book shows might be, I think The Boys kind of like put the lid on that market. I think there's nowhere else to go after that. Rodolfo says, I love Adobe Premiere. I first used it in my high school media technology class. Hey, Nadia, thanks for joining. And then Jay Vallis says, Grace, love that shirt. Aw, thank you. This is a new shirt. This is my first day wearing it. I just got it yesterday. Broke out a new shirt for the stream and today's videos. And Hasbin Davis says, I switched from Premiere to DaVinci. DaVinci Resolve, what the heck is that? Which is free and faster. I don't know what DaVinci Resolve is, but that's a cool name. And Mish says, what's for dinner tonight? Roast chicken. I also bought that yesterday. I had a food shopping emergency yesterday. There was absolutely nothing in my kitchen. I was like, I have no food. I must go get food. Food and paper products. I don't know, for those of you who live alone, sometimes that happens. You're like, oh my God, I have nothing. AG68 says, where the heck is the Invincible season 2 and 3? They said this year. Just Josh knows my pain. All right, let's do shout-outs. 3:11, this has been a very nice long stream. Let's do shout-outs. What are you up to? What are you doing? Let me just say hi to you. Let me just say hi. Not even rotisserie chicken, Elizabeth. I'm just cooking that in the oven. Amparo is making potato taquitos for dinner. That sounds pretty good. That sounds like some serious chef stuff. Eddie Wu is studying for my midterm tomorrow in California. That's awesome. Eddie Wu is a great name, by the way. That's a great name. April C. Bemrich says, what about a Disney Plus What If series that addresses the fan theories that Tangled, Frozen, and Tarzan exist in the same realm? And where is Tangled 2? Asking the tough questions there, April. I like it. Well, why restrict yourself to just that, you know? And then when you have to throw in that DreamWorks movie with Jack Frost in it? But yeah, that's basically the Disney Plus Princess series, right? And I don't know where Tangled 2 is. Marcel says, eating ice cream and enjoying your live stream. First day of autumn here in Brazil. That's right. It's flipped around south of the border. You're just starting your fall while we're starting our spring. Although, does it ever get really that cold in Brazil? Let's see here. Hey, Saad Al-Thani says, I'm in my editing class in Los Angeles Film School. Oh, that's awesome. They only have us use Avid Media Composer because it's industry. That is true. That is industry standard. If you want to work in the industry, you have to trust your class. I mean, you need to know that. Desnizra says, 2:12 a.m. in my bed, loves me the live streams. I'm glad we can keep you company. Sweet dreams, I hope soon. Eyes Only is just about to cook. B Weeb says, ignoring work, waiting to hear your spoiler thoughts on Scream. Sorry about that. That is a very cute emoji choice. River Marquez is headed to the gym. Dustin Donner saying, homemade coney dogs? Do you mean corn dogs? Kim Dean says, the bill I'm working on got passed through the State Labor Committee. That's impressive, Kim. Safe staffing for nursing staff. So psyched. That's wonderful, Kim. I know I combined your name into one. That's wonderful, Kim Deans. You once sent me a picture of yourself and you were doing I believe you were doing like some protesting and stuff. That's wonderful that you're such a strong advocate and you're actually making a difference in the world. That's so exciting. Juan Carlos is eating McNuggets just to get by this California storm. Wow, McNuggets are delicious. I'm very jealous. Jake Eric McDermott says, hey, Grace, watching from Leeds, UK with my boyfriend, Kester. Hey, Kester! And friends. Hello. I don't know why there's a pink poop emoji there, though. Diana says, just finished watching The Glory. So good. What is The Glory? Do you mean like, I only know Glory, the movie with Matthew Broderick and Denzel Washington, but I'm glad you enjoyed what that was. Nadia says, I'm just so happy I could join your channel for the first time. Me too, Nadia. Welcome. It's so great to have you as part of our conversations here. I look forward to your future contributions. And Raul Reynolds says, hello from Barcelona. That's how you say it, right? I always love that. Barcelona, Spain. Just finished some Picasso-style drawings. Oh, that's pretty cool. Oh, you really are an artist. That's fantastic. Thomas Hastings says, in California, trying to keep my mind off of my impending final grade being released. Just go with it, Thomas. There's nothing you can do now. And Ben Svarog says, just finished working out, getting ready for dinner in Hungary. Are you hungry in Hungary? I couldn't help myself. And Carlos Munoz says, eating Chipotle raspberry wings. What? That sounds crazy. And then David says, waiting for the live stream to end to step out to lunch. Thank you for making work better. It's my pleasure. Well, let's let David Cuvoto go. Let's let him get his lunch and let me get back to work on the other videos. I'm going to try and post one of them later today. And lots of great content coming this week. And of course, tomorrow, hopefully we get a Mandalorian episode that people want to talk about. I made myself snoot. It was so bad. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you for joining me for today's live. As always, I had a wonderful time with you. Okay, bye, everybody. Bye-bye.